Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Bipolar Balance. Today's episode is going to be all about the challenges of managing social media and content creation with mental health. So my name is Emily Lamenzo Washkovic. If you don't know much about my story, check out some of the earlier episodes on this channel. The quick highlight is in 2018, I was hospitalized for a manic episode. I was then checked into an inpatient mental health facility where I received a diagnosis of bipolar disorder. I went through 1 week of inpatient treatment and about 6 or 7 weeks of outpatient treatment before returning back to work in my corporate job. This was about 7+ years ago now, and this past fall in November, I was laid off from my corporate job on my 11-year anniversary. So I spent the last 11 years working at Yelp as their small business expert, the last 5 of those years as the host of Behind the Review podcast in partnership with Entrepreneur Magazine. So when I was let go and my department was eliminated at Yelp, at first I took a little time to figure out what I wanted to do next. And then I decided that I wanted to give my own show a shot. And it's not Bipolar About Balance. It's actually called Success Rewritten. It's an interview show where I talk to leaders, entrepreneurs, executives, athletes, all about the pivot points in their life that changed everything. The way they define success, the way they show up every day at work or for the people that they love. And the show itself is hopefully going to be a way for me to build my own intellectual property, have some amazing and inspirational conversations with people in my network and people I haven't met yet, and begin my journey on my own in entrepreneurship. And so I've spent the last 3 months prepping for and then mid-March launching Success Rewritten. And in that time, content creation has been the foundation of this journey. So for me, it's not only an exciting, time-consuming, creative outlet, but it also is a little bit reminiscent of my manic episode in 2018. When I normally tell that story, I reflect on the fact that I was working a lot, I had crazy hours and not good boundaries, and I got a puppy. And all of that stuff is true, but the other thing that was going on, this work project that I was really focused on, was the idea of putting together a plan to launch Yelp for Business on Instagram. And so as I was getting less sleep and ramping up unknowingly into hypomania and mania, my brain was kind of getting carried away with this strategy plan that we were putting together for social media. And as many of you know and are very well aware, social media is like a web, right? The way that you grow, the way that you spread your message is through content that people want to engage with and reshare. And so thinking of all of the connections that we had access to at Yelp was kind of the foundation of the account. So at Yelp, we have social accounts for Yelp Atlanta, Yelp New York, Yelp LA. Any city that had an employee working there as a community manager had their own social handle that they were managing. So we were brainstorming ways to connect all of this and use it to grow the Yelp for Business channel rapidly. And the really important thing for what I'm talking about today is the fact that part of my obsession, not only with the work project, but then this idea of making my new puppy Instagram famous, was inflated by the mania of my episode. And so there was a couple of days, even like 2 weeks maybe, where on my social media, I was sharing more and more and not content that I would normally share, lots of text all over the screen or just like chaotic sharing and so much, like posting so many things. And so now, over 7 years later, as I'm doing this journey with my own content, launching a show and keeping up Bipolar About Balance, I'm finding that it is a little nerve-wracking for me sometimes to be in this loop of trying to grow and cross-promote and manage multiple channels. And I'm doing okay because luckily I've set some boundaries. I'm still getting really good sleep. I have some workflows now that are coming together that took a lot of time to build, but now move faster. And so that's all good stuff, but there's this emotional strain that I kind of feel when I'm doing all this content creation. And the thought of content creation as a big focus of my time is exciting and interesting, but also kind of makes me nervous. And I also feel that a lot of people that have mental health, especially if you've had Mania before or other elevated episodes where maybe you've shown up online or even done things like in person in your personal life, that then you kind of have to live with the aftermath of. And so for me right now, in generating a lot of content and testing new things and getting excitement about things succeeding or getting a lot of visibility, it feels weird because I sometimes think about, what do other people think? Like if they're seeing me posting all this stuff, do they think I'm manic? Do they know that I'm actually balanced? And I just want to give a shout out to anyone who's gone through that, whether you're trying to do content creation or just like living your life like a normal person and sometimes posting. If you've had that experience where you showed up online during an episode and now anytime you show up, either people are concerned or even you feel weird about it, I just want to say that I hear you and I see you and I'm experiencing the same thing. And so remember that you are helping people and sharing and coming on here is making a difference. For me, I feel like even if I just help one or two people, that's enough. And I know already that we've helped more than that because you all have shared stuff and people have been reaching out to me. And I really appreciate it because before I used to talk about my journey with bipolar disorder and I would reflect on a lot of the stability I had and the foundation I had with my job and my health insurance. And now those realities are a little different. And so I'm balancing all of that and navigating this new normal. But social media has this weird emotional tug on all of us that can sometimes make it hard for people with mental health disorders to show up online. And so I just want to give a shout out to people if you're feeling that way. And I thought I'd also share a couple things that have been working for me, a couple things to note for like timeline purposes. At the end of this week, it will be about 5 months since I was laid off. So I was laid off November 10th, 2025. I spent November and December kind of just relaxing, enjoying the holidays, thinking about what I wanted to do, but not pursuing anything full blown. I was meeting with people and flushing out ideas, but it wasn't until January that I started really pitching my show concept, Success Rewritten, and then started recording in February, and we launched March 17th, 2026. So the time period is still pretty short. But in that time frame, I've gone through not only changes, but also a different normal when it comes to managing my time, what work I'm doing, when I'm working. And one of the first things that happened as I was leaving corporate and entering into working for myself was that all my boundaries for when I worked kind of went right out the window. And on earlier episodes, I talk about how when I returned to corporate after hospitalization and bipolar disorder diagnosis, I had to change my behavior at work, setting boundaries for when I stopped working, making sure I had a routine in the morning before I let work kind of suck me in, not multitasking. Those were all different things I had to do. And throughout my life, I've messed with those boundaries, of course. Things get busy at work or things change. But now, being unemployed or employing myself, I really need to reinstate those. And I didn't realize it. My therapist actually said to me a couple of months ago, well, you don't have any work hours. And at first I was saying, well, entrepreneurs don't have work hours, and she said, well, I mean, sure, maybe some of them don't, but if you don't set work hours, that's not going to work for your brain. And what she meant on a deeper level is, if there isn't set time that I'm supposed to be working and set time that I'm not supposed to be working, I'll have a really hard time deciding to stop working. And I also won't relax. So, I'm watching way less TV than I used to. I used to love using TV as a way to relax. And it's not a bad thing that I'm watching less TV, but what was problematic is when I would try to relax or watch TV, I would feel like I was supposed to be doing something for the business. I was supposed to be creating or posting or editing. And the reality is, the only way I can keep doing this in a sustainable way that lasts is if I take time to recharge. And so I've now started implementing not working at night. So once my husband Tony gets home, I try to be done with my social stuff for the day, my Success Rewritten, content creation. And sometimes if I'm editing something or, there's basketball on and I'm not paying attention to it, then I'll work on stuff. But I try to really close the laptop from that working perspective around dinner time. And then I also have been trying to enjoy my mornings, walk the dogs, and set time on my calendar for when I'm going to do different things. So if I'm going to go on social and do a bunch of commenting or engaging, I have a 30-minute window on my calendar where I do that. That also then allows me to move on to different activities and feel like, okay, I checked that off. Instead of before, which was kind of like doing it sparingly whenever I thought of it. So I'm starting to block some of those repetitive things that I need to do, even writing SEO articles or repurposing content for social. I was doing it all over the place in the beginning, and I've now realized if I set specific times every day of the week to do it, it is better for me. It's better for my output, my productivity, and my mental health balance of feeling like I've accomplished things, I can take a recharge and come back to the to-do list later. So keep that in mind if that's something that you're dealing with. I found that scheduling specific times to do the content, whether that's planning, taping, editing, has really helped me. And then it also allows me to know what my intention is when I sign on to social media. Am I posting something? Am I responding to something? And really keeping the social media time that's work. And so setting those blocks on my calendar has been amazing, ending the days at specific times, and then also being realistic about when I want to either be in a meeting, collaborating with someone. Because in the early days of being independent in entrepreneurship, I was meeting with people whenever. I was taking calls whenever people said it worked for them. And it was messing with not only my daily schedule, but just my own time balance. And I realized I didn't even do that at Yelp. I would hold my calendar to specific times or slots, and people would adjust to it. Or we would work together to find an alternative in unique cases. But if you let people run all over your calendar, especially if you're working with people in different time zones, no one's going to protect your time like you are or like you should. So keep that in mind and be aware of the fact that just because you're available doesn't mean you have to say yes to the meeting or the call or the appointment. You should do it when it works for you. I'm now in the stage of Success Rewritten is launched. I'm going to link it below. Please subscribe to the YouTube channel. It helps so much. We also have an Instagram account for the show, so check that out. And you can always follow along with my own story at Lamenzo Washkovic on Instagram as well. But Success Rewritten has its own website, successrewrittenshow.com. And same with Bipolar Brought Balance. Bipolar Brought Balance was the original website that I started when I did mental health advocacy the year after my hospitalization. I was able to resurface it after getting laid off. And I now plan to at least do 1 to 2 videos on here every month. And Success Rewritten will be the place where I'm interviewing guests and experts, and this channel will cross-promote mental health content over the time. So I'll keep doing individual talk-in mics like I am now about topics and things I'm going through. But if you or anyone in your network would want to come on Bipolar Brought Balance and talk specifically about mental health, I would love to do that. So reach out to me. I'd love to hear from you. You can reach me at emily@bipolarboughtbalance.com. And I'll put all this stuff in the show notes as well. Thinking about you, sending positive vibes your way, no matter where you're at in your mental health journey. I'm here to hopefully shed some light on what my experience has been like, slay some stigma, especially around bipolar disorder, and hopefully grow conversations about mental health so that all of us can be better supported. I'll see you at the next episode of Bipolar Brought Balance.